Hello, 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 hello.
Have a lot of tasks in that you need to take care. So also like while you are doing all of this, you have to like interact with vendors, and so they will cause a lot of problem, and you will have to make a timeline, and you will have to try that the vendors stick to your timeline. That was one of the biggest problem. And so overcoming all of these problems helped me get a lot of experience from the industry and was really helpful. So, and talking about how to choose a PS station, mainly the factors that you can consider while choosing a PS station should be number one, what is the project that they are offering? Second, what is the company like? What is the company brand or value? And finally, you can also take into consideration the location of the company. Personally, I would suggest that if you are going for a PS in core domain, you should be trying to get an offline PS. That will be really helpful, and you can learn a lot more, and you'll get hands-on experience on that. Next, do not choose a station merely because of its worth, but rather see what projects they are offering. Also, if the projects align with you, like talk to some seniors and if check if how the actual projects are functioning in the stations. That because sometimes PS stations might like give a false idea and you would not be having some actual work. Second, grades won't be an issue. If you do the bare minimum, you will get a good grade only. And so, yeah, put in the effort and you'll get to learn a lot from PS1. Like many people tell that PS1 is a scam, but you can actually learn from it. So, all the best for your PS station. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you for your insights, Preet. Now we will be inviting the speaker from who did his PS in a core electronics station, Rishit Mohan Das, who did his PS at CSIR National Aerospace Labs, Bangalore. Rishit, you may present your screen and start with your talk.
Yeah, am I audible and are the slides visible? Hello?
Yes, your screen is
Yeah,
visible
yeah,
on
audible.
the yes.
Yeah, I'm audible, right? Yeah, okay. Um, so good evening, everyone. I'm Rishit Das, and I'm from Triple E batch of 2020, Pilani campus, and my PS station was CSIR, National Aerospace Laboratories, Bangalore. It was an on-site station, and the sector for my project was core electronics, and my CGPA till 2.1, which was considered, was 8.18. So has two different domains, a few projects in electronics and a few for mechanical also. So the preferred branches are obviously ECE, Triple E, mechanical for the mechanical projects, ENI. And also, if you have a dual, especially a physics dual will help you with the projects. But I didn't see any other people who had like different duals get into the station. And the CGPA cutoff is in general 8 plus. And this is true for most of the CSIR labs, like CIRI is a CSIR lab, NAL is another. You have a lot of CSIR labs across the country. and most of them are really good. And the projects which they offered were a few of these, like RCS reduction using meta-surface-based radar-absorbing structures for stealth applications, electromagnetics of ground-based radomes, lightning conductors for aircraft. So all these three were for the electronics and physics people. And the last one, like thermoacoustics of Reich tube, this is for mechanical people only. And the skills and knowledge required were like basic literature review. They gave a lot of papers which you had to read and comprehend, after which you got on with the work. And also like basic coding skills on MATLAB or C, those will also help you. And yeah, report writing was a crucial part, because every progress you had in your research, you had to write a report that was required by NAL. Yeah. And the relevant courses for my project at least was EMT and ES. And the softwares which they used were all proprietary softwares like CST Microwave Studio, Altair, CAD, FICO, Agilent ADS. You might not have heard of these, but yeah, these are basically electromagnetic simulation softwares. And a few other core research stations are IGCAR, which is Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research, CIRI, obviously, CSIO, which is Central Scientific Instruments Organization, AERB, DRDO, ISRO. So all these are good research stations. And now coming to the thought process when choosing a station, like first, like majorly, you have some research stations, some core engineering stations, IT, and obviously then finance and all those other stations. So it mainly depends on what you want to do in the near future and your interests, especially because it's when you go to a PS station, you finally need to like the project and do some work, right? So you need to have a basic idea like what you want to do, and probably read through the chronicles and go through what the company does. Like just search on Google like what the company does, and if you find it interesting, that's great. And coming to the point of project and brand, obviously project is much greater than brand, because in your after your second year, like no one gives you much attention like where you have done your internship, but rather what you have done in the internship, because like the impact is much more important. And like good project outcomes are always a CV booster and opens opportunities. And coming to on-site versus online, again, like for research and core roles, I'll always prefer on-site roles, because they to talk to the people your mentor, and overall, like it's a better experience. And for IT or other roles, like even online works. So this basically depends on the project and personal preferences. Location, again, it's not very important for research-based projects only, like because IGCAR, it's in Kalpakkam. It's basically a village, some few kilometers of Chennai. So location won't matter much, especially for research. For IT or others, it might. And skill set and knowledge, like it depends. If you have the prereq knowledge and have done a similar project, for example, you have done web dev, app dev, and you probably want to do SI prep or another internship on the side, then you could choose that project. Then you will have like very little effort to put in. And if you want to learn or explore something new or like go into research, then obviously you should go ahead. So these are the two viewpoints. And personally, why did I choose SI or NL? It was because I had an interest in core engineering. I was in a few tech teams. I was in Chris Robotics, but still I wanted to explore some other fields in electronics apart from the basic chip design, VLSI design, all those areas. So, and it was on site. Like it was one of the few stations which were on site during our time. So that was my main motive. And also I found the project really interesting. So my work, like I had the first project, which is RCS reduction using meta-surface-based radar absorbing structures. It's very technical, but basically whenever you have an aircraft and you can detect it via radar, right? But for stealth applications, you don't want that to happen. So meta-surface is EM waves, and once it's absorbed, it won't be transmitted back. So basically it's stealth. And I use CST Microwave Studio and other you have to design all these parameters and optimize them. And like these are the surface currents and electric fields on it. which basically shows how good it is at absorbing the EM waves. And thus, like, you can achieve RCS reduction, which is radar cross-section reduction. But yeah, this doesn't matter much. Now, coming to the cool stuff, like at NAL, it was obviously a government lab with very high-tech security. You weren't allowed to take in any phones or any electronics per se. And even inside the lab, only the scientist's computer had internet. So it was like fully yeah, high-tech facility. So we got to visit a few of these places, and this, which you can see, is an anechoic chamber, where you can test your radar antenna or even those radar absorbing meta surfaces, and even a flight simulator for Tejas Mark II. So we got to visit all of these. So this is a benefit of going to an on-site station. You'll get to see these interesting places. Coming to the project outcomes, I obviously gained proficiency in using these EM simulation software. You won't be able to learn these on campus with any course, because the software itself costs some 80 lakhs, 1 crore or something. And yeah, it was invaluable experience. I also learned to write high quality research papers and reports, because my mentor, she wanted me to publish papers. So I also published papers in a few conferences, and I also extended my project because I liked that so much. And I also received like letters of recommendation. And overall, this helped me build a research-oriented profile. So I got selected for MyTax Global Link Research Internship in Canada. So I'll be going this summer to Canada. Yeah. And evaluatives, they're like pretty simple. You just have a weekly diary. You just need to add what all things you have done in the project, nothing much. Just make sure you upload it on time. Quizzes, this depends on the faculty in charge. Sometimes they just ask you questions about your company. But for us, they asked a few electromagnetics based questions, because our project was based on electromagnetics. But like, it's not very difficult. Then group discussions, the topics are announced beforehand, and I think we had 2 group discussions. And for like async group discussions, obviously focus on quality points rather than arguing, and try and build on the topic. Then the mid-sem and end-sem report, like just combine the info which you'll anyways make reports in your lab. And if you combine the info from there, your weekly diary submissions, all that is sufficient to make your report. And yes, make sure to remove confidential information and get it verified by your mentor. You don't want anything to be leaked, or yeah, basically make sure you do this. And for presentations, just make slides using the content from report, and don't go into every detail of your project, because your faculty also won't know like every single thing about what you're doing in the project. He just wants what all you learned, the learning outcomes, experience. And a few tips and advice, like go through PS-1 Chronicles for sure for every interesting station, like read up what the projects were about. Also, like visit psitseasy.com. I think it hasn't been updated for 2022, but at least you'll get to know the stats, CGPA cutoffs for previous years. Ask seniors who went to a PS station about their experiences, of course. And I'll suggest to fill up a good amount of stations. I filled approximately 50 or 60 in the portal to be safe, because you never know what can happen. It's pretty random. And also, like, keep good relations with your mentor, your co-workers for LORs and referrals. And don't get overwhelmed by the choices and the jargon in the project description, because even in my project, I knew nothing about electromagnetics before, and just like basic EMT. So once you go in the station, you can easily learn and gain as much skills as possible. So don't be afraid like you don't know, I shouldn't apply this station because I don't know how to code or something. You'll anyways learn on the job. And yeah, don't take PS-1 light. Try and get as much return on investment. After all, you're paying 80,000 for this. And PS-1 is basically a scam if you want it to be so. And also, like, don't worry about your PS-1 grades and station allotment a lot. Just fill your allotment. I got my first choice, it was NAL. And even grades, they are like pretty lenient in marking those. So unless you don't like upload your reports or something, you'll always get an A. So yeah, these are my contact details. So feel free to hit me up. Thanks.
Thank you for your insights, Rishit. Now we have the next speaker, also from Electronics Core. We have Dhanush Komila, who did his PS at CSIR Siri, Chennai. And also, just before Dhanush starts, I'd like to tell you all that your questions for the speakers will be taken up at the end of this session. So do keep submitting your queries in the form. Dhanush, you may present your screen and start now.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Dhanush, and I have done my PS at CSIR series Chennai. So uh, I hope everyone can see my screen. So yeah, basically it is like it is said that we have something in electrical, but so we have done our project mostly in deep learning based. So also that going to the like first of all I'll clear some basic doubts about filling the preferences. So most of you have this doubt like should I go for an online one or an offline one. So if you go for an on-site one you'll have the benefit of the industrial exposure and all, but in case of online you have like similar pros because I have done my PS in online where I used to work for like 2-3 hours for the project, and then I used to work on something like some courses or something else. So it helped me a lot. Whereas the people who went for on-site have like good experience with uh, how industries work, and they have good contacts with the people working there. So which is not possible in online mode. So I would like suggest if you are like having some plans during the holidays, then you can go for an online one. But it is better if you go for an on-site one because like there is a scam of you know you'll get scammed because like there won't be any mentor like taking care of you, or like there is no one explaining you stuff and all. So to avoid that, go for an on-site one. But in case if you get a good PS station, then go for an online one. Um, and coming to CSIR series, it is like uh, around 7.95 to 8, like people opted like 8.5, 8.6 also people have opted for CSIR series. And like evaluators are so light that you don't have to do like you don't have to stress on them. But very important thing is your project. So when you work on your project, you have to get some knowledge, which is really important. If you don't do it, like they won't care. They'll ask you for the output and you can submit some random shit. They don't mind. But to get like proper experience of a PS, you have to work on your project. While you're working, you can cope up with everything like diaries, midsem submissions and all. So coming to the pros, we got like the best scientists over there. So like they could help us out in all the situations. And yeah, online, so I have worked on stuff like courses and all, and deadlines were so flexible that even we could ask for 1 week time for presentations and all. And of course easy grade. And like the mentors really pushed us to publish a paper, but unfortunately we couldn't. And yeah, coming to the cons, you have to do like routine stuff all the weeks, and which is quite boring. But yeah, and also that since it's an online one, you won't have any motivation to work or something like that. And yeah, like they divided us into groups. I mean each group have one mentor, so from the series. So we have to choose based on these. And I got allotted with group 2, which is image processing. I have worked on terahertz images. So again in group we got divided into subgroups on which we have to work on projects and like different projects. Before that we were supposed to read some papers. So few papers are published from Siri, and few are like they gave us some confidential papers, 2-3 papers which are not yet published. so we could go through them, and they asked us like to pick the topic after that, and then we have to work on that. So it was quite interesting, but again, like you have the option to choose, so that's the best part. And then my project is mainly based on uh, GANs, like those are DL based applications kind of thing. So they provided us all the GPU, but which is almost like too slower than Google Colab. So we had to use Google Colab. And yeah, like I went there with absolutely nothing. And yeah, then I had to learn DL image processing and stuff. So then comes the online or versus on site. So I have explained you. So it's up to you to choose, but you can think before opting. And while filling the preferences, don't like skip after 5 or 10, because you'll end up in a cement factory if you like like fill up just 10 and you won't get it. So just try to fill as many as possible. Uh, then yeah, these are general questions. Usually CG is considered till 2 to 1. So like your effort is really important. That's what you have to keep focus on. And those are my contact details. You can contact me in case if you have any doubts or something, like if you got CSI or Siri, I can help you with. Yeah, that's it. All the best.
Thank you for sharing your insights and experience, Dhanush. We now have our next speaker from Chemical Core, and our next speaker is Mohit Kumar, and he has done his PS at Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, Mumbai. Mohit, you may present the screen and start with your talk now.
Okay, so I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay, great. Uh, yeah, so hello everyone. I'm Mohit Kumar and I'm currently pursuing chemical engineering here at BITS Pilani campus. And my PS-1 station was at Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, Mumbai. So it's basically a subdivision of the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, which you all, I think, must have heard of. And it basically belongs to the core chemical domain. So yeah, something more about me. So I'm particularly interested more in the research and development aspect of the core chemical domain. I am also currently the R&D head of the AICHE BITS Pilani student chapter. And these are a few projects which I have completed as of now. And
Excuse me, Mohit, I'm sorry, but your slides weren't moving. Okay, yes.
are they moving now?
It's at the personal introduction slide. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
okay? Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's okay. So yeah, continuing forward. So the main thing was what was my CGPA. So my CGPA at the end of 2-1 was around 8.04, which was considered for my PS1 allotment, and it's currently at 8.4. So yeah, moving to my PS station details. So as I just mentioned that AERB is a subdivision of the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, and as its name itself would suggest that it's a regulatory body that regulates and controls the radiation exposure. So basically, any nuclear atomic project which the government approves, so these are maintained by three organizations, of which one is AERB, the other two are the Bhabha Atomic Research Center and the Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research, which is also another PS station. This time also it's there. So talking about the CGPA cutoff, so IG-CAR had quite a few projects. It had projects related to each and every core branches, be it civil, chemical, mechanical, electrical. So I'll be specifically addressing the chemical one. So for that, the opening CGPA was around 8.12 and it closed at around 8. Since there were only 3 or 4 students which were actually allotted this station, so yeah, the CGPA cutoffs were a pretty decent one. And coming to my project title, so it was actually HAZOP studies of process modifications containing explosive or flammable material. So I'll be discussing more about this in the upcoming slides and talking about the mode. So it was a completely online PS1 for me. Yeah, so this is regarding my project. So I won't be emphasizing much on this because the reason being that ARB actually changes its project regularly. So I think you won't be getting the same project this time as well. But yeah, if I had to, are my slides moving actually? Can someone just confirm?
It's which slide are you at project details right now?
Yeah, yeah, I am at project details.
It had frozen before. It's fine now.
Oh, okay, sorry from my side.
No problem.
Okay. So yeah, I was discussing on my project details. So yeah, I was just saying that it's not that important for you all because they keep on changing the project. So, but if I had to describe my project in brief, so it was mainly regarding industry safety. So what exactly happens is that in majority of these process industries and especially in these nuclear and atomic power plants, the operations are pretty risky one, and we all know that even the slightest of the inaccuracies or even the slightest of the mistakes can lead to huge disasters. We have witnessed many such incidents in the past, so it's very imperative to actually have such kind of a body which regulates and which just sees that uh, the entire all the operations which are being conducted in these process industries, those are within the security and the safety limits. So that work is actually conducted by ARB. So yeah, if I had to just I won't be discussing much about this because I think it's not of much importance. So yeah, moving forward, yeah, coming to evaluation scheme. So just like
Your slide is still at project details.
uh,
Yes. Okay, it's changed now.
okay, okay. So yeah, coming to the evaluation scheme. So just like any other PS station, our PS station evaluation scheme was also a pretty decent one, I would say. We had two quizzes, which was completely regarding the institution. There was nothing more specifically asked about my project detail or something, which I and even my other batchmates who are allotted at ARB considered to be very irrelevant one because in the end it doesn't enhance your knowledge in any way. Besides this, we had two group discussions. This was a completely technical group discussion. So there we were grouped into different categories based upon which projects we are pursuing, and then we were asked to discuss the technicalities regarding it. So these two actually comprised of very lesser chunk of the percentage of evaluation. Major were these three, which is the project report and the PS diary and the midterm and final PPT. So project report, again, it's pretty obvious. You just have to put in whatever research work or whatever work you have done till that point of time. Midterm and final PPT, again, you have to just present, you have to just explain the faculty mentor as well as the industrial mentor, whatever work you have done. And since my PS1 was completely online, so for me, just it was like a way of expressing that, yeah, I have been continuously working upon my project. PS diary again is something where you have to document your work, like you have to document your daily work. So for us, this thing was made a bit simpler. So our industrial mentor actually used to ask us to submit weekly reports as to whatever work we are doing, and then he in the end he said that you just compile all these weekly reports and that only would be sufficient for your PS diary. And coming to how strict your PS1 evaluation would be, so I would say that if you are thorough, if you are just sticking to the deadlines, then no one can deny you an A grade. You will definitely secure an A grade for you. Uh, Yeah, so these are a list of other projects which were there at AERB. So as I mentioned earlier, that there were projects for every core branches. So we had projects for chemical engineering, for mechanical, for civil, and for electrical as well. So people belonging to these sectors also can. So yeah, coming to the advice for finalizing preference order. So I would say that these are advices which even I received from my seniors while I was finalizing my preference order. So the first one would be that finalize a domain. So this is something which is pretty underrated. It's not told by many of your seniors, but this was something which actually helped me a lot. So what exactly happens is that whenever this PS station list comes, there are around 150 to 200 PS stations. So it's pretty difficult for you to actually research about each and every PS station, like whatever project they offered, what was the experience, finding relevant seniors who did their PS1 there, and then asking them how was the experience. So besides this, if
Mohit, your screen is still at other projects.
okay, I don't know why this is happening. Okay, sorry for that. So yeah, as I was mentioning that you need to finalize a domain first. So what actually happens is that you can't find seniors or you don't have relevant details of each and every PS station. So in that case, if you are pretty certain that okay, I need to pursue my PS1 in core, or I need to pursue a PS1 in finance or IT, then you are able to shortlist around you can say one third or one fourth of your PS stations. So then it becomes easier for you to research like whichever PS station I would be preferring. So yeah, that facilitates you in finalizing a preference order. So I would say that even if you are not able to come up to a particular domain, so it would be good that if you restrict yourself to maximum up to two domains. Like if you are not able to finalize, like should I specifically be going for core, or should I put in this particular IT station first also. So in that case, yeah, you can do, but these things would turn out to become more difficult for you as you keep on increasing your number of domains. Again, second point is I think it's pretty obvious. Like you need to prepare an ideal preference order. You don't need to think that okay, my CGPA is this much only, so I should fill this particular station at the top. So that thing won't work. Another thing, the third one, which is the most asked question, is what you should prefer: a good project or a good brand value of the PS station. So I have slightly different opinion regarding what my previous batchmates told. So this was something which was told again by my seniors. So they said that actually your PS1 duration, which is of 2 months, that actually it's a very small duration to create a good impact. Or if you're thinking of that, okay, I will be taking up this particular project from this station and I will be excelling in it, then it might happen, it may happen, but in most of the cases this actually is not the case. And let's suppose you are preferring an private core company, let's say Grasim, above let's say National Chemical Laboratory or IGCAR, just because Grasim has a project related to machine learning. So that won't be justified. The reason being that these government stations or government research laboratories, first thing is that they have certain of their own brand value. Second thing is that if you are not from BITS and if you are looking to intern at these stations, then it's pretty difficult because these government laboratories, they are very much rigid in selection of interns and all those stuff. So in that way, you should consider, I think, government laboratories or government research stations. You should give them a higher priority. And in case of chemical, I think there have been a few additions also this time, like DRDO. It wasn't there at our time, but you all will be getting an opportunity to pursue your PS1 there also. So besides this, I think IGCAR is there, National Chemical Laboratory is there, AERB is there. So HPCL and IOCL also are there, some of the great PSUs. So yeah, this was also my reason why I had put ARB at a higher priority. And again, some people can have a different opinion, but yeah, this was something which was told by my seniors. So I thought it would be useful for you also. Uh, Lastly, don't rely much on previous year cutoffs. That's pretty certain. And again, online versus offline, I think my batchmates have discussed the pros and cons, each and every pros and cons regarding it. So yeah, I won't be emphasizing much on it as of now. Uh, yeah. So uh, just to confirm, am I on the next slide? Like I'm on advice for PS1. So are you able to see this?
It's
Not
still at
yet.
preference order.
Okay.
It's changed now.
Yeah, no.
Okay, okay, fine. So yeah, uh, some of the advices for PS1, like these are pretty general one. Try to be punctual and show decent level of dedication towards your allotted work. The reason being that this will help you build good relationships with your mentor, with your faculty in charges. So, and that in turn would help you get some LORs or get some publications also. So that this thing is something which you won't realize how important they are while you're doing a PS1, but later when you start preparing for your placements in the same domain, or if you're applying for summer internships on campus, off campus, then you realize the correct value of those LORs or those publications. And thirdly, that's pretty obvious, that approach the project with an open mind. It's not that you didn't get a project of your choice, you didn't get a PS station of your choice, so that means that you just taking your PS1 for granted. So it's not the case. You just try to put in as much effort as you like for your PS1, whatever, irrespective of whatever station is allotted to you. And lastly, try to document your day-to-day work, because as I mentioned that this is what your PS diary actually comprises of, and that in our case it carried a good amount of weightage in securing a good PS grade. So yeah, it would be better that if you are able to document your work, because in the end, if you have to just think of like what I did that day, what I did the last day, so then building a PS diary would become more and more difficult for you. Uh, okay, so that's it from my side. These are my contact details. So if you have any further questions, you can contact me, and also you can fill the query form for further queries. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Thank you for sharing your experience and insights, Mohit. The slides will be shared with you later on for all the participants, so you can go through them in detail at that time. And we will now be moving on to the next domain, which is finance. And our next speaker is Manan Sood, who has done his PS at the Indian Institute of Public Administration. Manan, you may present your screen and start with your talk.
All right. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
All right. So I'll keep it short and simple. So hi, I'm Manan Sood, and I'm currently pursuing MSc Economics and Computer Science. I am mostly interested in the core finance roles that are there, and I did my PS at the Indian Institute of Public Administration, which is in New Delhi. It was an on-site PS station, and my CGPA at the end of my 2-1 was above 8. So let's talk about IIPA. And why did I choose it? So the major work that was involved in that was secondary research in the economics domain. IIPA conducts a lot of courses for civil servants and a lot of research as well. So it is a great institute if you want to get into economics research or to learn more about the civil services that go on, public administration, public policy, and if these fields interest you, it can be a great PS1 station for you. The number of students that they select are between 10 to 15, and they prefer B3. But as I have seen, a lot of branches were there, and there was not a major preference given to B3. So there's not really any difference. The CGPA cutoff in my year was 7 and 7.5, and it was lower because it was one of the few on-site stations, and a lot of people were preferring on-in stations because of COVID and other reasons. So I did my project in the domain of public finance, and there were about 13 people in my batch, and they had to choose between different domains. For example, people who are interested in public finance, people who are interested in public policy, and core finance also. So they were allotted 3 different professors, and they did a proper economics research paper in these 3 domains. So if you want to explore the field of economics research, and if you want to have some sort of paper on your profile that you have published this, or you want some research experience, this can be a great option for you guys. So a bit of advice for any PS station or even IIP also. So keep a very open mind and go with the learning mindset that okay, 8 weeks are enough for you to learn and implement something. For example, if you don't know coding, if you haven't had any research experience, you can still learn while doing the job because you have 8 weeks in hand. And nobody expects a lot out of you just after second year. Also, keep in touch with your PS1 faculty mentor because they are the ones who will be allotting you marks. And if you are not responsive to them, or if you are not in touch with them, you might lose out on some marks. Even though a lot of people get an A, but just a few people who get an A minus or B mostly get that because of not being in touch with the PS1 faculty mentor. Also, do keep good relationship with your industry mentor because you can get a LOR from them. And a LOR from industry mentor is actually a very good thing because when you're applying for SI season, when you're applying for placements or even masters, LORs are one of the major factors there. And if you have a publication on your profile, it shows that you are dedicated towards whatever you are doing. And try to do your project very sincerely and try to document every step because once you're going to an interview and they ask you about any of your internships or any of your work ex, if you have documented everything, you can explain each and everything properly and they know that okay, you're not saying bullshit, you have actually done something and you know what it is. So these are the major pointers that you should be looking forward for PS1. And if you have any more queries, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. This is my WhatsApp number. All right, thank you.
Thank you for your insights, Manan. Now we have our next speaker who has done his PS1 in an ML domain. We have Kaustubh Chaudhary, who did his PS1 at CSIR Siri. Kaustubh, you may present your screen and start now.
Right. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Right. So I'll just share my slides. Yeah. So is this visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So hello everyone and welcome to this talk. So in the next couple of minutes, I will be sharing my PS1 experience with you. Hopefully it would be useful and insightful to you, both for the preparation phase, which is right now, as well as during the internship period. So before we proceed, I'll give you a brief introduction about myself. I'm Kaustubh Chaudhary. I'm a third year single degree computer science student. I'm from the Pilani campus. I did my PS1 at CSIR Siri Chennai. It was an online PS1 and I'll discuss more about that soon. In the coming summer, I will be interning at Wells Fargo, Bangalore for the software engineer role. And aside from that, I am currently a teaching assistant for the on-campus data structures course. If any of you are from Pilani CS second year right now, the lab sheets that you guys are making use of have been probably written by me. Now, moving on to the things that you want to hear, CGPA, right? So, I mean, my CGPA that was considered for my PS1, that was 8.35. That was my CG after 2.1. That's what was considered. And my current CGPA is 8.6. So that actually might be some motivation for some of you who might be thinking that it's not possible to raise your CG after first year. Anyway, now moving on to the station itself. My station, as I said, was CSIR Siri Chennai, and it was online. And the domain of this is, I mean, evident from the name, it's electronics research. It's an electronics research, it's a government-funded electronics research central institute. So, however, most of their projects nowadays are very much intertwined with machine learning and artificial intelligence. So that seemed to be quite profitable experience to me before I was filling the form when I looked at their project titles. So the CGPA range for this station is roughly in the lower 8s, 8 to 5, 8.0 to 8.5. And a lot of people in my batch opted for this station at that CG. Well, what were the prerequisites for my project? I mean, none really. There was not really much of a prerequisite. We got adequate time to learn the things that we did not really know. And there was always the mentor there to tell you what exactly you should do at each step. So there was never any problem as such. I really did not know much ML before this project, but after the project, I can say that I learned a lot having worked on the project. So some knowledge of ML would definitely help, but if not, don't worry about it. You will always learn along the way. And I'm pretty sure this is true for many of the stations, many of the good stations out there. Good programming skills are always preferable for the mentors. As I said, this is a research institute. Many of the mentors over there are scientists, and they want engineers from engineering institutions to code the things that they have in their mind. They have ideas, they want you to implement them, and so on. So that's one of the things that they look forward to with this internship. So moving on to my project itself, it was a pretty interesting biomedical electronics, signal processing, artificial intelligence. I mean, yeah, a lot of keywords. It has an intersection in all of those domains, this project. So the title, I've displayed it here. It's the detection of arrhythmia with wearable devices using machine learning-based methods. So this actually brings into mind many questions, and I will answer them. And in answering them, you will actually understand what the project was about. This might give you some idea about what such projects are like and what the station what the projects in this particular station seems to do. If you're interested in that, you might even consider this higher up in your preference list. So what exactly is arrhythmia? There's a term right there. What is arrhythmia? Well, arrhythmia is a condition of the heart that leads to irregular heartbeat patterns. That's basically what it is. So if your heartbeat is irregular, you have arrhythmia. So how do you detect it? You detect it just like how you detect your heartbeat. You detect it using an electrocardiogram. That is how it is traditionally detected. However, the problem is arrhythmic heartbeats typically do not occur very regularly. They can occur at any point of time. So it's not like if you are suffering from arrhythmia, it's not that all the time you have arrhythmic heartbeats. It's just sometimes your heart decides to make an arrhythmic heartbeat. That's what arrhythmia is like, which is why it's difficult to detect, So if you go to the doctor and ask them, do I have arrhythmia? They will they will measure your heartbeat using an electrocardiogram at that moment. But it could happen that at that moment, your heart is not beating arrhythmically. So that doesn't really help us, right? But you could actually be suffering from arrhythmia. Maybe your arrhythmic heartbeats happen at a different time. So with regards to this, the scientist that I was working with, Dr. Madan, he had a very remarkable idea. He postulated that nowadays, since most people wear these smart bands and smart watches or fitness bands, potentially every waking hour they're wearing this fitness band in their left arm. So can we not use this to detect arrhythmic heartbeats potentially at all times? Because then at any time if it occurs, the user could be notified about it. That is where the wearable devices part comes into picture. And that is where the signal processing domain of the project comes into picture as well. Because how would a wearable device detect any heartbeat or anything at all? That would be using signal processing. There are specific signals that are used for this. But then where does machine learning come into picture? You could guess that. If this device is to be programmed to be able to detect some specific sort of heartbeat, specific pattern of heartbeats, we could very well program it using machine learning. We could train it on what these arrhythmic heartbeats look like, and we could then see if it actually is able to detect them. That's what the project was basically like. And so this involved a lot of research. This is still an ongoing project, even though my internship is over. So probably some of you who are allotted this station might even get a chance to work on this project because it's not complete. It involves a lot of research, and you have to do a lot of analysis as to what sort of features you feed into your machine learning model and how to train it, whether some features are relevant over the others, and so on. That's the kind of research that this project entailed. And I repeat, most of the guidance was given at all times by the scientist who was in charge of it, the station mentor, Dr. Madan sir. He guided us at each step, and so there was never really any issue. So if you ever had any problem, you could always just ask him, and he would propose some solution which you could then proceed with. That is basically what the project looked like. Now, this is an overview, a brief timeline of what the project looked, what the time division of those 8 weeks of the project was like. So within the first week, we were introduced to our mentors and the projects that the station was offering. And then we were distributed into those projects based on some preferences that we were asked to fill. And once that was done, we were working with our working with the mentor that we were assigned to, working with the scientist. And they then proceeded to present to us their ideas, which took about 2 weeks, I think. These are all ballpark figures. I don't exactly remember. And of course, it's not exactly 2 weeks. It's not split so evenly. It's a very dynamic process. So yeah, after they explained their ideas to us, in my particular project, we had to do an analysis of what sort of features would be relevant for the signals that we were receiving. So for example, what we're doing has something, what we are measuring, arrhythmic heartbeats, has something to do with randomness. So we could probably rule out some features which have nothing to do with randomness or chaos, and probably include other features like entropy and standard deviation and so on, which have something to do with the features. So in this way, we actually went through a list of about 100 features and found out some 20 or 30 which we thought were relevant. And after that, it was all on us to implement the machine learning models by doing Python programming and seeing which of those features actually were relevant and what sort of accuracy we were getting. And so by the end of the project, we were getting close to 90% accuracy with our trained models. So our scientist, he provided us with a data set on which we trained our model, and on the test split of the data set, we were getting close to 90% accuracy, 85 to 90%, which was pretty good, I would say. I mean, that was a very interesting experience to see that something that we've been working on actually has some level of completion to it. So that's basically what the timeline looked like. This will obviously differ based on station, based on project, based on you even. I mean, if you decide to stall a week for some reason, then this will be shifted down a little bit. That is, a lot of things depend on how you choose to approach your project. Moving on, I mean, I often get asked the question, what were the outcomes of the internship? Was it useful to me? In what way was it useful to me? So I've outlined those in this particular slide. So as I said before, I had absolutely no idea about machine learning. I had only the few, buzzword type understanding of machine learning. So working on a project truly expanded my horizons, and I learned new things about it. And I learned exactly how some of the things worked and how to implement a machine learning model to solve some real world problem. That was one of the key outcomes. Obviously, I also did not have much of an idea about how research work is carried out. Some of you might have worked on SOPs or LOPs with some of your professors on some projects. But I had not done any of that at that point in time. So this internship was a very good experience for me. Working at a government-funded research lab gave me good enough experience about how research works. And of course, I also did not have much of an idea about how an organizational setup would work. How does an organization function with all your employees, interns, and management, and so on. So I got some idea about how that works as well. Of course, I was allotted to a team of 5 people. So even teamwork is something that I could add to the list of outcomes. I did learn how to collaborate with a team of people whom I had never met before, whom I had never spoken to before. I did not know who they were, neither did they. So that was also a very useful outcome, I would say. Most importantly, however, I would say that the internship, the project that I worked on, was a crucial addition to my resume. It was, once the internship was completed, I had a solid point to add to my resume. I worked on 2 months in a government-funded research lab on this project, which seems to have a lot of applications as well. And this was the work I did. So when I put that in my resume, it became a very strong addition to the list of things that you can put in a resume. And I would say most of you should approach the PS-1 in this way as well. I mean, regardless of what work you actually end up doing, if you get something useful to put on your resume, it would be successful. I would say it would be you could say that your mission was successful with the internship. Now, another very important thing that this consequently added is that if I've put something in my resume, then the person looking at my resume can ask me about it. So in interviews, for example, related to summer internships and so on, if you apply for them, you have to upload your resume. They look at your resume and they can ask you questions in the interview. So they saw this project that I had written about in my resume, and they asked me questions about it, and I could answer them because they went quite deep into the questions. So since I had worked well on it, I could answer them well. So this is why it's important to treat the PS-1 as something that will be useful to you, so that you get some useful return out of it. And not only that, you should also be able to speak about it. You should know what has gone on in your project, what exactly has happened, why you did something and why not something else. and so on. Because these are the kind of questions that you will be asked. And these are, if you're not able to answer them, then that would be problematic. So yeah, I would say the last 2 points here are the most crucial additions to the list of outcomes of this internship. Now, coming to something that you are working on right now, which is filling your preferences. This is obviously, there are multiple factors that you should consider when you're doing this. Most of the earlier speakers have already mentioned the important details. So for example, of what repute is the station that you're considering? Does this station have a name? Does anyone know about it? Do they have a website of their own? What sort of work do they do? Who are the people in charge of the station like? If it's a company, who are the employees like? What are the reviews of the employees after working there like? What are the if they've taken interns before? What are their reviews of the work experience that they got, and so on? That all comes under station reputation, which is a very important point. It's also important because when you put in your resume that I've worked at this particular station for this period in an internship, then it also matters what that station is to some extent, because someone reading your resume will read this, and if it's a name that they recognize, then that will be obviously good for you. So that's the first point. Second point is obviously what sort of work they provide. What is the project domain? What is the problem statement? You can obviously decide what station to choose based on these details as well. So for example, if you're interested in machine learning, maybe you could consider Siri Chennai. Maybe if you're interested in something else, you could consider that based on the projects that they offer. What is their problem statement? What is their demand? What do they want from you? These things you should obviously consider before finalizing on a particular order with respect to your preferences. Obviously, you should also speak to previous interns at that station. If it's not a new station, then you can always find chronicles and other details about students who've done an internship at that particular station, and you can ask them. Maybe you can email them, or maybe you can read the chronicle article that they've written, and so on. That's also something important that you should consider, because useful information often gets relayed from there. You could also kind of look at the past CGPA cutoffs and fill your preferences in a more conservative manner, so that if your CGPA is not matching with the stations that you fill, then that would be a little bit demotivating for you. I mean, if you fill stations and you only get the last preferences that you fill, then that's not going to be very motivating for you. So that is in general what I have to say about the preference filling. Now, coming to my last slide, these are some generic tips that you should keep in mind. Obviously, spend enough time while filling your preferences. It's important that you don't half-ass it. You should obviously spend enough time on it, and probably the deadline is tomorrow, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, I mean, spend this last few hours finalizing your list and make sure that you're satisfied with what you filled. Of course, not really telling you much, try to get something useful out of your PS-1, because that will always help you later on. It's something that adds to your resume. It's something that you can speak about. It's something that adds to your identity as well. Now, if you learn new things from your project, that's always a good thing. You can always, even if nothing's really going on, if you spend that time and that opportunity, which is the internship, to learn new things or implement something or explore a new horizon, a new domain, that will always be useful to you. Even if things are going wrong, always remember that you can convert any situation into something, a learning opportunity, something that will help you in the long run. Obviously, as others have mentioned before me, be on good terms with your faculty mentor and station mentor or mentors, because ultimately they're the ones who are doing your grading, they're the ones who are handling your project, and they're the ones whom you will go to later on if you want an LOR or something. Of course, try to remain proactive with your work, even if your teammates start taking light, or even if your mentor starts taking light. That also happens sometimes. Try to be proactive as possible, because if you're not doing proactive, you're only doing a disservice to yourself, because you're not getting any work done, and then you will not have much to present about your internship. And lastly, a very important point that I would say is spend some time or a lot of time, depending on how interested you are in pursuing software summer internship later on. Spend a lot of time or some time doing preparation for coding rounds and interviews for your summer internships, which will be happening in your 3-1 semester, right? So, or if you're a dual, it will be happening in your 4-1 semester. Spend this summer break trying to explore those as well. It even though you're working on your PS1, whether it's online or offline, you will have some free time. Try to use it for this. It will help you a lot. Now, if you're obviously explicitly attempting to sit for the SI rounds, then this will obviously help you. But even if you're not, this will at least put you at the same level as the other batchmates of yours who are doing the same thing. So there are things that you will learn in your SI prep that you will not learn in your courses anytime soon. For example, dynamic programming is something that you will be asked in your coding rounds and interviews, but you haven't been taught that yet. It's not taught in your data structures course that you've done so far. It will not be taught in the data structures course in this semester at all. It will be taught to you in your third year course. But it's very important because if you're sitting for an interview or a coding round, you will be asked it. So things like that are very useful to you. If you get some time and are feeling like it, you should definitely spend your time doing preparation for SI coding rounds and interviews. Of course, there are multiple resources available for that, and we'll not get into that now because that's not in the purview of this meet. That was all. Thank you. These are my contacts. If you wish to contact me, these slides will obviously be shared with you later on. So you can, if you feel like you have any questions about what I said or what I've written on some particular slide, you can obviously hit me up. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your insights and experience, Kaustubh. Now we'll be having speakers from the IT domain PS stations. And to start this off, we have Arya D, who did his PS at Geo Platforms. Arya, you may present your screen and start with your talk now.
Yeah. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
So, hi everyone, this is Arya, and I'm currently in my third year pursuing BE Electronics and Instrumentation. I interned at Geo Platforms, which was held in online mode, and a total of 49 students were allotted the station. Yeah, that's a big number. Okay. So there were 6 different projects allotted to us, and we had to fill out a preference form indicating our preferences. These projects were based on MLOps, NLP, CV, as well as front end. So coming to my project, we had to build a chat application that identifies the toxicity of messages sent using a deep learning model. And if it was more than the allowed threshold, then the message was sent for moderation. We also fine-tuned the model with additional data to increase its accuracy. I was responsible for building and training the model. Other team members were responsible for building the API and creating a dashboard to view the live data and the performance metrics. While there was no such particular prerequisites, but obviously having a working knowledge of deep learning was helpful. To be frank, at the time of my internship, I had just started learning DL. So coming to the evaluation, the process was pretty standard. It had daily attendance, weekly diaries, a couple of quizzes, and of course the midsem and endsem report. Okay, so that's for about the technical details. Coming to the CG cutoff, it was around 8.1, and my CG was 8.18 during that time, and it's currently 8.75. Just giving a motivation out there. And yes, this was my first preference. I know how much time it takes to fill the form, changing it every now and then as more and more companies add on, calculating the chances of getting a station based on previous year's trends and a lot more. But later I realized that there is no such trend and it's dynamic and it changes every year. Instead, the more important thing to do is consider the field you want to pursue your PS1 in, because it's a very valuable experience to add to your resume, and I wouldn't recommend it using as a trial and error method to explore different fields. Believe me, in all the SI interviews I gave, I talked about my project at Geo, and yes, it helped me crack an internship at Samsung. So it's essential to choose your field wisely. As for my situation, I had only one app dev project at that time, and of course, wanted to create a strong resume for the upcoming SI season. So I prioritized brand over the project. I know this contradicts a lot of opinions out there, but believe me, a big brand name looks more attractive on your resume. Plus, all these brands come with good projects. Selected big brands as my top preferences. And yeah, PS1 is an important experience that you can discuss during interviews. So take your project a bit seriously and put in the effort required to make it count. Anyways, coming to the most important question, whether to select online or offline mode. During my PS1, around 90% of the companies held it in online mode. But if given a choice, I would still prefer online mode, especially given that I was going in IT. This is because the SI season begins around the time your PS1 ends, and those 2 months are your crucial preparation time. I mean, yeah, you would definitely lose up on the first offline experience working in a company, but believe me, you'll get a lot of time to prepare for your SI season. So yeah, again, I'm stressing on the fact that this majorly applies to IT students, as you know they don't have much of hands-on work to do. So yes, I would suggest you guys to choose online PS if you're serious for the intern season. Coming to the conclusion, I have a few pieces of advice to share. Firstly, again, it's crucial to determine in advance which field you want to pursue your PS1 in, because changing your field later on would just render your project useless. You cannot have a core project while applying for ID interviews. Although PS1 as a whole may be considered light, but it's important not to take a project lightly, as it will be a significant topic of discussion during interviews. But personally, I not devote a significant amount of time to my PS1, usually around 1 or 2 hours max daily, except before the midsem and endsem reports, of course. However, I still managed to get a letter of recommendation from my mentor. So, in conclusion, PS1 is a valuable opportunity to gain practical experience, learn new skills, and of course, increase your CG by a bit. So, make the most of it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Arya, for your insights and your experience. Now we have the next speaker, Angad Singh Quatra, who did his PS at the Survey of India, Dehradun. Angad, you may present your.
Yeah, thank you. I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, so I'm Angad. I'm currently in my third year pursuing Triple E, and I had an on-site PS in Survey of India, and so I'll be going about how I chose the station and what it was and what I did, and then coming to the most important bit, which is some advice. So Survey of India is mostly responsible for a lot of domains, geodesic and marine, etc., etc. So my project was in the tidal department, where we had to predict the time and height of tides, because it's very important for a lot of ships moving from the docks, because they rely on the high and low tides. So there were about 8 students from across all campuses, and they had various departments. They and so the CGE bracket ranged from below 6 to even to 8.3. So why I chose this station was, everyone during RPS, there were mostly the stations were online. So mostly everyone was opting for online, which is pretty understandable. So I figured that I might not end up with a very good PS because of my poor CG. So I opted for an on-site PS, and it ended up being a very good choice. It was pretty high up on my preference list, and I ended up getting it. So during the 8 weeks, I spent the first two learning about what the department I was working in, what all they did, and some basics. And 8 weeks is a lot of time to learn anything. So yeah, the next couple weeks, I created multiple programs in Python, which helped the day-to-day working. Some of them, they had old programs which needed refurbishing, and processes which they were doing, I helped them automate them by creating some programs. And in the end, I convert applications which could easily run on any computer. So coming to the most important bit, my PS was on site. So be punctual and sincere. Like, a lot of people say PS1 is light, but you can end up getting a lot from it. And I went regularly, and I ended up getting an LOR from there. So, and in the beginning, they offered a lot of projects, and there was a lot of work that could be done. But it's important to start slow and see how much you can do, and take up small things one at a time. And then if you feel like you want to do more, you can, because SI season and everything is also coming up. So you need to devote time to that as well. So, and keep maintaining good relations with the mentors there and your faculty, because even after my PS, I was in touch with them, and they helped me out. So, and it's very important to document what they do, as everyone keeps saying, because in the end, when you're asked about it, it's always easy to look up and just tell them what you did from there. And it'll help you keep track of what you're doing and what your progress is. And anyway, you have to fill your PS diary, so it's easy. And try to get the most of it, even if you don't have a very great CG. You can always put in some effort and get a lot out of your PS. So, and as my PS was online, there was a lot of other still non-technical stuff involved. Like I was responsible for my work. I did not have very strict deadlines. They would say, this is, you have 2 weeks to do this, so it was up to my discretion how quickly to do it. So you have to be responsible, and that was something I learned. And then you have to live independently, and that is all. That helps because even in your PS2 there's a good chance you'll be doing it offline. So you get to experience that, and then of course you get to go to a new place and learn about that and have fun as well. So that is all from my side, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experience and your insights, Angad. We now have the next speaker, Pratinav Mongia, who did his PS at Agnext Technologies. Pratinav, you may present your screen and start with your talk.
Yeah. Is my screen visible? Hello.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. I am Pratinav Mungia, and I'm currently in my third year studying manufacturing engineering. So I did my PS1 at Agnext, and it was an on-site PS. Now today I'm going to tell you about my PS experience. So first of all, what does Agnext do? It's basically a startup which is working in the agri-tech domain. So they make devices which are related to quality assessment of food grains and dairy products. So now I can't talk a lot about my project in detail because I have an NDA signed with the company. Moreover, the domains of the projects, briefly, I can tell you are in IoT, machine learning, and data analytics. So basically, they had multiple projects, and they interviewed us. Like they just asked us about our skills, and they allotted us different projects. And as you can see, the approximate these were the CG cutoffs of our station. Now,
Pratinav,
talking
your
about,
slides haven't changed. You're still at the first slide.
is that so? Okay. Are they changing now?
Nope.
Okay, just a minute.
Yes, it's at about the station now.
Yeah, okay. So now I hope, so basically our CG cutoffs you can see on the screen. And as I was talking about, the startup works on quality assessment devices for food grain. So they use machine learning, IoT based solutions for these problems. And as I said, I can't talk in detail about the project a lot. Moreover, my approach for filling the form was, first of all, talking about an online versus an on-site PS. So I didn't have really a specific preference for online or on-site, but yeah, if you're preparing for the upcoming SI season, I would say that you should select an online PS station because, like for me, on-site was a little on a hectic side. Like I used to reach office by 10 and leave by 7 p.m. So yeah, it was a full-time job sort of. And the way I filled my preference form was I divided all the companies into three types: type A, B, C. Type A was a good company and a good project, and type B was an interesting project but not so known company, and type C was rest. So this was one approach that I used for filling the preference form, but end of the day, it's your choice. Now, many of my previous speakers, they covered a lot of the points, but just giving my advice, I would say, was that you can choose an on-site station if you want a proper corporate exposure. Moreover, there are a lot of people I know in mechanical and core branches who have a sort of a confusion between if they want to go into IT or finance. So I would say for that, an on-site station can give you a real feel for what it is in an IT station or what will you do if you'll be an SD. And I would moreover say that you should choose startups with good projects because they add value to your resume. So during my SI interviews, I was mostly asked about my projects, except some DSA. But yeah, uh, so I would say that I agree with like agreeing to Arya's point that a brand is more important than a project. But if you're getting a decent brand, so then I would say you should go with a good project. And so that's all. And you can reach me through email or mobile if you have any questions. So thank you.
Thank you for your talk and for your insights, Pratinav. We now have our final speaker for today, Samriddhi Sinha, who did his PS at the Regional Remote Sensing Center. Samriddha, you may present your screen and start with the talk.
Yeah, hello, good evening. Yeah, so can someone confirm it's visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Samriddha, and my PS1 was at Regional Remote Sensing Center West. So here's about me. I'm a CS third year, right? My CG after 2-1 was 8.93, and my PS station was this regional remote sensing center. I will come to what this does in a moment. But was this station my first choice? No. Was it in any of my choices? No. So what had happened was, in my choice filling, I had gotten my first choice, which was a startup at that time, and after after I received it, it simply backed out. So I was left stranded. Literally, I was in like Panvel bus stand, and like I had received this mail key habit has pulled out. So I had to fill a choice form out of like 10 or 12 stations, which one I would like to intern at. So in that, I had filled this regional remote sensing center west, and that was my top preference, and I had got that. So do not worry if your PS station pulls out. It's a very very rare occurrence. In my knowledge, only two had pulled out, probably one or two more, but not more than that. It is a very rare occurrence, but even if that happens, PSD has got your back. So what is Regional Remote Sensing Center West? It is a subsidiary of the National Remote Sensing Center, which in turn is an ISRO body. What do? They work primarily towards remote sensing solutions for different agencies. So if a government agency or a private company needs remote sensing data like sanitize or something, they will approach one of these regional remote sensing centers. So what does the work at RRSCW entail? It is primarily remote sensing oriented work. So you will have a lot of image processing kind of projects. One of the projects was a bit electronics oriented as well. However, I am not proficient in ML or CV or electronics. My project was different. I had to work on WebSockets, networks oriented stuff, and it involved a lot of web development. So the great thing about Regional Remote Sensing Center was they were very flexible with projects. They had asked us upfront, what are your interests? And based on that, they had given out the projects and you could choose among the projects. So what are the skills required? Actually, none. Like it is like no station in PS requires you to have very specific prerequisites, but the interest to learn during the internship is very, very important. Like you will be expected to learn a lot of stuff during the internships. So in the first 1 or 2 weeks will be your learning period, and then the rest of the internship you will be applying whatever you have learned in that time. So what were my learning outcomes? I had managed to learn Node.js, Express.js, Socket.io, which is the WebSocket thingy. And then there were various different frameworks. On the top of my head, I do remember Panelum.js. it is a thing where you can like display VR images properly, like you can like scroll around in the world, and self-hosting as well. Like instead of going for paid hosting plans, since it was a one-off project, I could onto the internet. So that was something I learned. And on the soft skills side, like presenting your work, like there are mid-sem and end-sem presentations. So during that, how do you properly present your findings? Time management, uh, how do you pace your project? So we had divided our project into two halves, which helped us a lot. Like we could do our work in two different chunks, so it didn't really like add up stress in our minds. And communication, so you will be in small teams. I was in a team of two, so me and my partner, we worked through PS1. So how to fill the preference order? uh, I have to admit, during my time, like when I had to fill the PS form, I was a bit confused. And looking at some of my choices, I don't think I have made the best choices. Some of these don't need to be here, but how do you fill it in an ideal world? Read through the project descriptions. That is very, very important. What all technologies you are expected to use. Are you interested in those technologies? Then only fill them. Give importance to the name recognition of the the station. So sometimes some stations like Geo, Samsung, Amazon, you just know the company from the name, like, but you don't really know what regional remote sensing center West Jodhpur does. So that is a factor you have to keep in mind when you are filling in the stations. So talk to CDs previously posted in these stations. Yes, absolutely. Even in my brief moment at like the Panvel bus station, even then you have to have the presence of mind key. Okay, what is this station? Who all do you want to contact? Like for this, PS1 Chronicles comes in very handy. Like you can have the name of the senior who had interned there, and then you can get the phone number by asking your friends or something. Again, it can be stressful, as I've already said, but do not panic. Uh, Whatever happens, PSD will have your back. And the end goal of a PS1 is to really have an experience about which you can talk confidently in interviews. So keep that in mind. Do not slack off. And yeah, basically that's it. So what are some online resources which can come in helpful? There is the practice school and extender for base Pilani. It is a browser extension. I think it's available on Chrome only. So Chromium oriented browsers like Brave, etc. will also have that. So that will help you arrange the stations in a neater manner. Like it will be faster. As far as I remember, it saved me a ton of time. And also again, psitseasy.com. I don't know what is the level of updation for this, but I hope it's and it has good like bands, like it shows you the bands of CG in which the station lied. Oh, I forgot to tell about my station only. Like so this RRSC West, ISKA CG was in a very narrow band. It was from 9.22 to 8.93. No, sorry, 8.83. Sorry, 9.22 to 8.83. So it's a very narrow band. And so psitseasy.com can help you filter those out. And then there is PS1 Chronicles for, first of all, the experiences themselves. And if you want more info, just ping the seniors from there. So that is it for today from my side. You may contact me here, and wish you a good day ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll be moving on to the FAQ section here. Can anyone tell me if my screen is visible?
Yep, it's visible.
Okay, so the first query is, can we preferentially choose a station due to medical reasons? Anybody who'd like to answer that?
I mean, medical reasons. Yeah, I mean, sure. This is a very personal question. I mean, it depends on what kind of medical conditions you have.
Yeah, so basically you have to talk to the PSD. They may choose to entertain you or not, it's up to them. So next one, the first part is at exact 6 CG, my preferences are Delhi NCR and online and no other accommodation. Let's say I don't get both of them, then what would happen?
You would get a randomly allotted PS.
Right. Second part, what would be the preference if I choose to live in another city by taking a PG? Like, where is it easy for students to go?
Well, I guess, I mean, Bangalore, for example, doesn't have a very high cost of living. Like Mumbai, of course, steer clear. Yeah, probably places with lower cost of living, like where you have ample opportunities to get housing. Yeah.
Right. Okay, the third one related to IT sector. If I am preparing for SI, should I prefer taking PS online rather than offline? Also, if the preferred domain they have given is different from ours, are we allotted that company?
For the first one, if you are preparing for SI, yeah, you can. If it's IT, you can definitely take PS online. Uh, this is just very IT specific. For other domains, I think you have to see it on a case by case basis.
All right, the second part, if the preferred domain they have given is different from ours, are we allotted that company?
Like, what do you mean by domain? Do you mean preferred branch or what do you mean exactly?
This query was posted by Rohit Agarwal. Is Rohit present in the meet? I guess not.
Okay, I mean, preferred branches is very like it depends from station to station, really. Like, you can have it allotted and like also not. Like, don't take the risk, probably. That's what I'd say.
Right. Okay, the next one to IT sector. My CG is 9.1. What can I expect? About how many people are above me in ranking, including all three campuses? And can I get Amazon or Geo?
Can you get Amazon or Geo? It's very dependent on how well Amazon and Geo are rated by the batch. It's like, can you get it? You can, but it would be very difficult if everybody knows that Amazon and Geo are good stations, probably.
Right. Also, we did have Arya present as a speaker who got Geo at 8.1, I think. So anything is
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. At that point, what had happened was nobody knew what Geo was up to, like what sort of projects they had brought. So, like, Geo had a very broad range of CG. Like, you even had 10 CG people from Nutanix just shift into Geo. My friend was one of them. So,
Right. Okay, moving on. General query. What will happen if I don't tick in self accommodation box? Will those not be considered as preferences? Should I tick in box for on site stations, which I prefer, and not tick in? Just a second. Should I tick in the boxes for on site stations and not if I got allotted to an on site station? Will there be at least 5 other students also in that station, or is there any lower limit on the number of students per station?
these are questions you should ask PSD, to be very
As far as the
honest.
first question is concerned, I think they can shoot a mail to PSD exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is PMP, we're not PSD. It's right. Okay, moving on. If you are an Econ plus CS dualite, if you go for finance PS1, since you have been doing all Econ courses, are doors closed for IT? And if you choose IT and you find yourself that you aren't that skillful enough, what's the next part? Okay, this is the question. If you choose IT and you find yourself that you aren't skillful enough, so are the doors for IT closed? Anybody willing to answer that?
I mean, isn't that true for everything? If you're not good at something, you will like if you're not willing to put in that much effort, that you probably won't progress much into it. So probably change field if you don't like it already.
Yeah, right. But also your PS would not have any effect on it. You can opt for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
fund.
it's
Yes.
something like apart from PS. Like this is a very general doubt. This is not a PS specific doubt, but yeah.
Right. Next question. For online stations, do we have to take accommodation box?
I don't think so. I didn't.
I think at our time we had to do because I had this ambiguity. Like for us, Gale it was converted to an on-site PS station lately, and since I hadn't ticked the box, so I was not considered for that. So it was there for our time, but I don't know what's exactly the case this time. So you may ask PSD for that.
Yeah, exactly. This is a PSD question. Like, if you are having any questions regarding the like mode of PS or ticking certain boxes in the certain website, please ask PSD. They are there for your to help. Like,
Right. Okay, moving on. Is it possible to do an internship along with online PS? And how do we have to manage the accommodation for an on-site PS? So it's a two-part question. The first part,
Yeah, I think it's pretty manageable. It depends also on what PS station you have been allotted, because that's also one of the key factors that candidates do keep in mind while they finalize their preference order. Like, will they be allotted a project that will be very tough in nature, that will be very extensive, so they won't be able to get any time. So in case of an offline PS, it will be difficult, but online PS, yeah, it's pretty manageable. I myself did another internship along with my PS, and it was completely manageable for me. And secondly, managing all the accommodation. So again, it depends. Like some of the PS stations, I don't think many, but a few, they give accommodation from their side. Like last time also, we had a few. I'm forgetting the name, but there were, I think, one or two stations. But mostly, since yours is on site, so you'll have to look for accommodation yourself.
Yeah, like if I can add to that, like a few PS stations, if they are very remote, are in very remote locations, then they give you accommodation. I think a few of them had townships or something. I think
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was Jindal Steel or something,
yeah,
which gave
yeah.
accommodation. Yeah. And like for otherwise finding accommodation, when I went to Bangalore, I just like I searched on Google like which all places are near to the station. Like don't try to find a place which is very far, otherwise you will always be um like wasting time on transportation, wasting money on transportation. So I just found out places which are in walking distances. I visited a few PGs, and whichever I liked, like I went there, and after that I finalized my accommodation. Don't try to finalize it beforehand. Like for 2 3 days, I think it's better if you book an Airbnb or probably a hotel or something. And yeah, like stay away from scams. Don't like book it beforehand.
all right. Okay, so the next question, if someone has helped to introduce a station, are they guaranteed to be granted a position in that station?
I think so. Yeah, I think it is in the modalities of PS1 itself.
Right. Okay, so can I choose to forego my top preference for the next station in the list after I am allotted to the top preference?
I mean, if you want to do that, was it your top preference? Really?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, again, like PSD might or might not allow you to do this. I mean, it's totally up to them, because they clearly write in their terms and conditions, once you have been allotted, you can't change it. So yeah.
And under normal circumstances, I don't think they would.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one. What does one do in order to make up for the credits if he decides to not do PS1?
Okay, if you're not doing PS1, you're already converting to a thesis, and you will have to look into the bulletin for the number of courses you will have to do in your thesis. So I think if you don't do PS1 and you're taking a thesis, so the number of electives you have to do, the open electives stay the same. If you're doing PS1 and taking a thesis, then your PS1 gets converted into a course. So you have to do one less OPEL, I guess.
Yeah. That's basically it. Especially for single degree, I don't know for dual degree what's the case. Yeah.
Yeah, and adding forward to it, just one thing is that if you're thinking of not going for PS1, so in that case, you will not be allowed to go for PS2 also, because PS1 is a prereq for PS2. So you just make this decision very wisely.
Right. Also, in case you do opt to not do PS1, you can go for a summer term in the same duration. That's
Yeah.
5 extra credits. Anyways, next query. What priority number PS station can be expected at a CG cutoff of around 6?
I mean, put Aditya Cement at the top, you will get it.
Yeah, like it's totally dependent on the companies you give. Yeah.
Correct. All right, so next is for IT. So if there is a required skill set mentioned in the company's project description, which I don't know, should we consider applying for that company or not?
Definitely consider applying. Like, if you're willing to learn that in the given time, sure, no problems.
All right. General query. Can A8 branch fill preferences till 11th April? Is tomorrow 8 a.m. not my deadline? Following up, during 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on 11th, can we edit our preferences or will preference be locked in?
I think we can skip this question. This is something only PSD can answer.
Yeah. Okay, general query. Should we check the accommodation box for the stations where accommodation is being provided, or will filling a yes simply imply that we don't need their accommodation and will manage on our own? Again, PSD, unless somebody wants to answer.
This is again something PSD specific. We cannot answer.
Correct. Okay, IT. Are we supposed to go for good companies or good projects? Does the company stature matter for PS1?
This is a matter of choice. I mean, if you go for a good company, that will obviously look good on your resume. If you go for a good project, you may end up doing better work, so that may look better on your resume. It totally depends on the company as well as on the project, and also on what you want.
Right.
Yeah, but as a rule of thumb, like project should be much more. Project should have a higher preference. Yeah, you should.
Again. Like, this is so
very
much
subjective.
of personal.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of the speakers elaborated on their point of view. So if you're still confused, go through the recordings. We'll share that. Right. Okay, so next question, general query. What if you can't find proper accommodation for PS station? And what if someone has filled out limited cities? Will you get a station outside your options if the CG criteria is not met? And where can we find these? Okay, this seems very PSD specific.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. I only want online PS, and there are very few online PS stations. If I don't get, I won't be able to do my PS as I'm traveling abroad with family. What should I do to only get online PS? Again, talk to PSD.
Yeah, I
Pray to
mean,
God.
and only fill online PS stations probably. Like, that is the next best thing you can do.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, like don't tick the accommodation box. So I think they'll be liable to give you an online PS or something, probably.
Right. Okay, IT. How does the experience of working at a research institute differ from that of working at a company?
I mean, no person has worked in a research institute and a company in PS1. So,
I think the best way is to look at this talk
this talk
there are
itself.
speakers who have done their work in an IT station as well as those in a research station, so you can probably get some idea from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go through the chronicles. That's best. Like research institutes in general have a very open-ended problem, and they aren't very result-oriented at first. Like you might have to try some attempts, you might get something. Like research, you don't know what the answer is. That's what research means. But at a company, they might completely accomplish something. That's the basic difference which I can tell. Yeah.
Right. Okay, moving on. General query. What are the possibilities of an online PS1 or PS1 in a Tier 1 city with no preference with a CG below 6?
I mean, it's completely within the realms of possibility. It's not like something impossible. It's just that you'll have to look for some station which is offbeat or like not really in demand. So you can like, you'll have to scour through the list of stations which are in demand. That's the strategy you can use.
Yeah, correct. Next, if someone does not check the accommodation box and his her CGPA is low, such that he doesn't get the PS online, or where institute or company offers accommodation.
PSD, by
Yeah. General query, online versus on-site PS.
this entire talk. Let's move on.
Yeah. Some PS stations have a faculty write-up in the chronicles and some do not. Does this mean that the latter did not have a faculty assigned?
No, it really means that the faculty did not bother to write the thing. All PS stations have faculty appointed.
Correct. Okay, IT. Suppose a station offers AI MLDL and I don't have much knowledge about it right now. Can I still take it?
Definitely.
Next, is there accommodation for the Pilani and Goa stations within the campuses itself? Is it for all companies or only a few?
I think for
PSD.
CD Pinali you can, yeah.
Yeah, but like PSD will help. Yeah.
All right, IT two-part question. Considering there are 60 online IT stations, almost, till what CG with online stations for IT be available?
Depends on the demand supply.
Yeah. And second part, for the companies who have written preferred discipline, is people with the preferred branch given higher priority irrespective of their CG?
This is like कंपनी स्पेसिफिक. अगर कंपनी डिसाइड करेगी कि नहीं हमें इन्हीं ब्रांचेस के चाहिए तो उन्हीं ब्रांचेस के लेंगे.
Yeah, okay. Next is general query. Are preferred branches given on PS1?
Yeah, same question.
How to make biodata for PS1?
Okay, so that's a section I don't think many stations really look at, but doesn't harm you to fill it to your max. I think in biodata, just put in what you're comfortable with, like your already skill set, and like, yeah, at the end of your second year, if you have done any like SOPs or something, just mention them, I guess.
Yeah, like they might help in tie breaking or something. And sometimes like at NAL, for example, they had a different division in which they scoured through the list of students sent by PSD in Pilani, and then they I think they went through the biodata. So some stations do look into that. So yeah, no harm in filling it out.
All right. Next general query. Why is there 6 hour slot? Basically, do we have to submit our preferences in any particular time slot? Also, Herman International versus remote sensing. First part, I guess, PSD.
I don't know what Harman International does. I don't know what remote sensing station you're talking about. So I guess let's move on.
Yeah, okay. Next is IT. I have some idea about web development, but not much of ML AI. So should I look into ML AI online station to get more knowledge and exposure about it? I have this dilemma.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Like if you are underconfident in your skills, but if you're really interested and like you are sure that you will be able to put in the effort to learn it, sure, go ahead.
Okay, great. So how much weightage are branches given? For
There's also an
example,
element of the question that asks about online.
sorry, what?
That question actually had an element which was asking
Okay. I
about
have this
online as
dilemma
well.
that in online it
Basically, the
may
question
become.
was, is there enough
Oh
time to
yeah,
go
yeah.
through
Oh,
the
it was a big question. Yeah, yeah. Kostub, go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And if you want to do SI prep, I think that is going to be easier to do online because you will be at home. You will have more time to do things on your own and explore things on your own. So if you are actually interested in exploring ML and AI, then you can actually consider it, regardless of whether it's online or offline. But if you want to do SI prep, online is preferable.
All right. This one. How much weightage are branches given? For example, if a station mentions B1, so and so.
Depends on station. Let's move on.
Yeah. IT. There are stations who still show details awaited. In some IT projects, the projects are pretty complicated. So will we go through these complicated projects in the 2 months? Do the companies make in turn handle those projects? And third one, are the companies honest with their projects?
So the first one, they can still be details awaited at the end of PS as well, not a problem. Some IT projects, the projects are pretty complicated. Will they be able to do so? You will be able to complete your PS. Like the companies and the stations know what they are dealing with. They are dealing with second year students who do not have too much like domain knowledge. So they will help you along the way. And are companies honest with their projects? Unfortunately, no. Not a lot of them. Like at least in IT, this happened with Chris. Chris is like I think Central Railway Information System, something like that. So what they had advertised was they had to do Java, .NET, and stuff. But in the end, it was an app dev project. So even but regardless, it doesn't matter. You have to deal with what you're given.
Yeah, like the projects can change like later on also, because when the companies fill these forms out, maybe that time the project was still going on, but by the time you go to the station, maybe the project has changed. So yeah, but in general, like the domain which they have mentioned is always correct.
All right. Okay, moving on. General query, biodata section, and do we have to check off? I think both of these have been answered.
Yeah, let's move.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. IT question. Whether I should give preference to private or government PS stations for IT. Have heard contrasting opinions on it so far. CG 8.5 plus. Also, no knowledge of MLA.
Personal
Yeah.
opinion. MLAI का knowledge नहीं है, still you can apply. If you want to try the ML, is it the right platform? I don't know, but it is one of the right. Like you can do it, not a harm.
Okay. So the first part, preference to private or government is okay. Opinion. Moving on, general query. If in a given project list, in a given station, only one project has my discipline marked as preferred, is it assured that I will get that?
Is it assured you will get the project or the station? Station, no, you are not assured. Project, yes, you will have to talk to the people.
Okay. Second part, can a PS station working in the online mode become offline for a particular period of time during the PS and vice versa?
They can have offline visits, I think. IG Card was planning on doing it, but I don't know about like a period of time when the work will be offline. I don't think that is something which can happen. Again, if
I
it
guess it
does happen,
actually
you.
happened in our batch.
Oh,
One
which one?
company, I don't remember the name, but towards the end of the PS, they called all the interns.
Oh, did they?
Uh,
Damn.
yeah. And also, there was one which was listed as online, but it became on site in the beginning itself. So,
Yeah, that's something different. I think it was Gale or something.
yeah, probably. But
Yeah,
at
it
that time,
changed from on-site
PSG
to
helped
online.
them out,
Yeah.
and if you want to do an online one, you could have opted for a different company.
Yeah.
So, okay, so yeah, it is possible, but very unlikely.
Hmm.
Okay, next, IT. Is it possible to do an online RI along with offline PS1?
Yes, definitely. Moving on.
Are
Wait,
any
wait, wait,
views
wait,
on
wait, wait,
No,
wait,
no,
wait,
no.
wait,
With
wait,
on-site,
wait,
it's
wait,
difficult.
wait,
Yeah,
wait.
it's
Yeah.
9 to 5.
Offline PS1 के साथ तुम online आ रहा है?
No, it's not.
I
Mostly not.
don't think so, because what happens with offline PS1 is even if there is like not too much work, you will have to sit a long time in the office. So unless it has like a 3-day work day or something, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, like I was dead exhausted after like the full day. So, and anyways, the stations might give you some work to do at home also, like read up on stuff
Yeah.
or something. So yeah,
Yes.
don't
So,
don't
and
take the
like,
risk.
did you have like a 5-day work day, like work week?
Yeah. Monday to Friday.
Have to keep in mind.
Saturday working. So
all right?
yeah.
So next one, any reviews on Amazon Applied Science this year?
I mean, it's Amazon. What else do you want me to say?
All right.
I
Next one.
mean, one thing,
Yeah.
like sometimes what these companies kind of do is last time we had Nutanix was like, okay, woo, this bright shiny company, and they pulled out. So always like be prepared for that scenario.
Okay. Moving on. I don't have any prior knowledge in ML, and I think this is also pretty
Up to
much.
you. If you want to like put in that effort, definitely do. No problems.
Yeah, cool. General query, my CG is 9.1. How many preferences should I fill?
300 at least, I think.
All right. General query, if we choose a station that is not our hometown, how big is a problem? How big a problem is finding an accommodation? Kindly elaborate on how to find one.
Yeah, so for example, Bangalore is not my hometown, so it's not very problematic. Like, just look online for places like I have mentioned before, and then go and find places. And also, like, a lot of seniors have done PS2 in a lot of these places, so you can maybe ask people, or even the people who live in those cities, you can ask. And yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Has anyone heard of stations where people have had troubles finding accommodation? And what is the most common mode of finding accommodation, like websites? Second one has been answered. The first one. Has anybody ever heard of people having troubles finding accommodation?
There were not too many on-site PS stations last year, so no, we have not heard of these stories.
Yeah, all right. Next, what was the cutoff of AERB civil in the past year? Is there a minimum number of students that will be allotted to a specific station? I'm not sure if we have the cutoff for AERB.
Yeah, but I think I had one friend who had more than 9 GPA, so it was pretty high. It's 8.5 plus or something. Because the ERB itself took very less people, I think, as Mohit mentioned. I don't know.
Yeah,
And is there a minimum
AERB.
number of students? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on. Okay, Harman International is a Samsung-owned company and IIRS. I mean, I know of IIRS. That's a pretty like decent PS station, very sought after. Harman International, I think it's coming in for the first time. I don't know what it does exactly. Harman, I think, makes sound components. So if the project sounds interesting, probably it's a good name though. I mean, I have heard of the name, so I think it counts for something.
Yeah, all right. Next one. My CG is 8.3. How many preferences should I fill?
300.
Can I see if a PS station is online or offline on the website? It is not mentioned anywhere on the PSD website.
It should be, right? It should be.
Yeah. Can we travel with family abroad during PS1 if we get online? I am taking IIRS. Is it possible to do this online from a different time zone?
I
Will
mean,
Amazon
how
send their
abroad are we talking about? This is something you'll have to talk with the station itself.
Yeah. Second part, will Amazon send their laptops also? This is in continuation with the above. I might not
Nobody
be able to
knows.
access the
Nobody
laptop.
knows.
Yeah, this is very personal. Yeah, I like, yeah.
Right.
Will I
Okay,
get an
moving on.
online PS with a CG of 7? Why not? Definitely. I mean, pick some online station which no one has heard of and just take, I guess.
Right. Okay, is it possible to do both PS and thesis?
And you are a dual, right? Uh,
So PS1, PS2, and thesis in place for
Yeah,
PS3.
it's possible. Like PSTS, TSTS, PSPS for dual, everything is possible.
It's
No, no,
pretty much
no.
the same way. Wait, what?
Is it possible to do both at the same time?
No, obviously not.
No. Like in one semester, one PS, another different PS, and also like I think they have to be with reference to your branch or something also. Yeah, PSD should be able to answer.
yeah, this is a PhD question.
Okay, I guess this is the end. Um, okay, so no more queries. Thank you very much to the speakers and for everybody who attended the session. In case you have any other queries, you can always reach out to us via mail. Many of the speakers have shared their contact as well. So I suppose we can end the session here.
Yeah, thank you. Was fun having you here.
All right.
Yeah, thanks. All the best.